All of these things are happening in natural ecosystems, and an oak savanna is a great example.
So this is our perennial cover that we've grown.
I'm standing in one of our swales. We planted a whole range of indigenous trees and shrubs.
We are a certified organic mixed vegetable operation.
This is part of our flower field. We're in the process of tearing things out.
Welcome to Manorun Organic Farm. My name's Chris Kruker. I've been farming here with my wife Denise Trigatti and our children for a little over 25 years. Behind me is a 20-acre field that we purchased 10 years ago, and we have planted it in an oak savanna. Prior to us using permaculture methods and planting the oak savanna in this 20 acres, it was a horseradish field, and it was very heavily chemical dependent. And so we took this field over, and it's excellent soil structure, but the biology of the soil was pretty challenged. And so we've been going through a process of regenerating that field. Prior to even knowing about the term regenerative agriculture, we were interested in permaculture and began to think about how do we grow in a better way. And what we came up with was using permaculture principles like keyline for water movement. And we also ran into and had a chance to hear Mark Shepard speak about growing an oak savanna. And so we've planted an oak savanna on the farm. We're in our 8th or 9th year, so it's still in its infancy. We planted a whole range of indigenous trees and shrubs. And a good example of what it'll look like in 80 years or so is what's right behind me here. We have a mulberry tree, fairly old one, that's sort of coming out under a black walnut. And so we have the overstory tree, which is the black walnut, and then we have the mulberry below it. And then, although you might not be able to see, there's raspberry canes, and then below that we have pasture. So you've got 4 levels of stacked food. And here's a great example. This tree drops bushels of these black walnuts, which is an excellent protein source if you can take the time to get the husk off and crack the nut. So we've been working on that as well, how to make use of that type of protein. But this is a great example that without any influence from humans, the black walnut, the mulberry, the raspberry canes, and the pasture all grew on their own. And we have that repeated theme, or a guild of plants happening throughout the farm. Black walnut, fruit tree pops out from under it, raspberry canes, and pasture. So I'm standing in one of our swales. We've dug swales every 100 feet. The idea with the swale is that you're moving water from the wettest areas to the driest. When we dug the swale, we threw the dirt to one side to create a berm, and we planted on that berm all of the indigenous trees and shrubs. And we also put in a pollinator seed mix throughout the swales. That diversity, I think, is an incredible way of, well, making sure you're getting pollination, but also I think this is going to be a great way, and is a great way, to manage our pest problems. So, for example, we're already starting to see in these small trees nests being planted or made by birds. Birds eat insects. And then you've got all sorts of predator bugs that are living in the swales. And so that's going to go a long way to deal with pest problems. So this is a hayfield. It's its 2nd year. We will run our livestock through this, our cows. A big part of what we're trying to do here is create fertility without buying it in, avoiding using the tractor. So livestock will come in. It'll be intensive grazing, and they'll be moved every day or maybe twice a day, depending on the time of year. And they're doing that great thing, which is eating and pooping. And then the microorganisms under the soil are taking that manure and eating that and pooping that out. And of course, over time, you've got a healthy soil. So when we eventually plow this under in a few years, it'll be ready to plant, and it'll have all sorts of fertility. A little bit of an example of this is we have our chickens. We don't let them run, or we don't pasture them the way we would pasture our cows. but they are out on pasture and have access to the fields, but just on a limited basis because we have to protect them from predators. So you can see we've got our electro netting, and then we've got a bit of pasture, and they've got access to the swale, and then on the other side of the swale there's more pasture. And over time, the idea would be to take the pigs and run them through the field. Once we have enough nut production and enough fruit production, they would pick up whatever is the windfall. What we're learning is that you can get the livestock to work with you. So get them to eat and poo where you want them to eat and poo. Don't keep them in a barn and then collect it and spread it, but put them out on the field. Get the plants to do the heavy lifting around fertility, fixing nitrogen, bringing carbon out of the atmosphere, bringing up micronutrients. All of these things are happening in natural ecosystems, and an oak savanna is a great example. We get the advantage of large mature trees and shrubs, but also the wide open expanse with pastures for livestock to feed, and then to interrupt that and grow vegetables. So we're really working with nature, and that's sustainable. We've weathered the ups and downs over the last 25 years. We've had a consistent income. It's not been a massive income, but it's been consistent. So I do think you need to think about the financial viability of your farm, and whether or not small and diversified and direct sale and working with an ecosystem would be an advantage. We think it is. We're beginning to see the next generation, our children, picking up farming, and they're all getting paid a wage, and we also get paid to farm as well. Behind us we have our vegetable CSA day. Everything's spread out on the table. That's our main financial driver. In addition to that, the swales offer a couple other types of income, not just in the form of fruits and nuts, but there's also wood. So we can harvest wood either for lumber or for fence posts, whatever we might want to use it for. And then there'll also be quite a bit of management of those trees and shrubs. So we'll be cutting and doing chop and drop. And those trees, if they're hardwood trees, for example, could be inoculated with mushroom spores, and there's another income. Right in your vegetable field, in the middle of it, you're producing mushrooms for sale as well. So thank you very much for coming and for hearing the story that we have to tell you about regenerative agriculture. Best of luck in your regenerative future.
My name's Patrick Kitchen. You are at Sideroad Farm, run by my wife Amy and myself. We are a certified organic mixed vegetable operation, and we also do a variety of pasture-raised livestock. So we have laying hens, we've got ducks and geese, we've got pasture-raised pigs, and we do 3,000 meat chickens on pasture through the artisanal chicken program run by the Chicken Farmers of Ontario. We also do about a half acre of cut flowers. We have a farm store, which you can see right there. Through the store we sell eggs, all of our chicken, flowers, vegetables, and as well as a variety of other products that we source from local farms and farms a little farther afield. On the farm here, it's run by Amy and myself, and we also have about 4 full-time vegetable staff, and then there's also one part-time flower staff person. We've partnered with the local florist as well, who helps us on the flower side. 4 other part-time people that help out with the store.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of good folks who are part of the team here that kind of make it all work. So the farm itself here is 60 acres. We have about 35 acres in hay and approximately 15 acres in either vegetable production or rested ground that'll be vegetable production the following year. And oftentimes we have livestock grazing on that rested ground, on cover crops or hay ground or whatever it is.
So this is our perennial cover that we've grown.
This is all white clover, which we seeded.
Seeded very thick.
Yeah. We wanted to put something in, a crop in place that we could mow to manage weeds, as well as this will fix nitrogen, of course. So the plan up here is to put an orchard.
I don't know if Pat got into our soil, but we are on a sandy loam here. Osprey silt loam, I believe, is our soil type. And water, although abundant under the ground, it's definitely a challenge keeping crops hydrated. So doing things like this, planting a cover crop, we're building soil which will help us to keep our things that we want to grow hydrated, to hold water and nutrients, because we find that we burn through nutrients pretty quickly during the growing season as well. Okay, this is part of our flower field. Unfortunately, it does not look very impressive right now because everything has now been frosted, and we're in the process of tearing things out slightly earlier than we normally would, which is exciting because I think this might be the year that we actually get a rye cover crop down in time to grow in the flower field. You can see we grow using landscape fabric, pre-burned holes in landscape fabric, which means that we essentially don't weed during the flower season, which is great because I have no time for that. This year we transitioned in an effort to work on building the soil because we know we're growing here very intensively. We transitioned this patch to no-till. I didn't notice a huge difference in terms of the quality yet, but I think hopefully that is coming, and certainly if we start to incorporate some cover crops into this and really start to give back to the soil, I'm hoping to see some real changes. It was definitely harder to plant into the no-till zone, which was a challenge in the spring. We had to use a dibbler to make the holes, and then also we had to water a lot more. We found too that layer of compost on top with the transplants into it definitely dried out really quickly, and so we had to be really careful. I usually would water with drip in here, and we were actually running overhead water through June to make sure that our seedlings weren't drying out and were able to get rooted.
To be able to produce as many vegetables as we want to produce while still taking care of our soil, we've now gone actually into 3 fields so that we can rest large areas of ground and grow really nice summer cover crops to build up soil. We rotate our chickens on pasture. This hut is mobile. I pull it with a tractor within this hot wire mesh fence setup, and of course when I get to the end of the fencing setup, I move the whole fence onto new ground. So I get a few steps within the fencing setup, and then I move the whole fence. So we seeded the whole farm down in a pasture mix, which is predominantly grasses, but there is a decent amount of alfalfa in it. And we run this setup across all 15 or so acres that we have in vegetable production. So we sort of landed on this system because we have the land base, and we always struggled with how to grow good cover crops when we were growing vegetables on every acre that we had in production. We sort of went more extensive, and by doing so, we're able to rest, basically half of our farm every year, and cover crop it and run livestock on it, which hopefully over the long term will really help with building organic matter in our soils and really improving soil health on our farm. We're by no means experts at any of this, it's just from a farming standpoint, it's been really interesting to learn about it, and we're learning and changing things every year. I'm not sure how much more I have to add, but thank you for coming on our tour, and I look forward to seeing what other people are doing.
There's Cusco. Oh, sorry, start again. Now it's rolling. All right, this is take 3. Now with toddler. Yeah.
We're in the third of 5